I see one is all.
Um,
Mr. Etherly's on. Mr. Franklin's on. Joe's on.
I'm here.
Uh-huh. We have 3 and the mayor makes 4.
Great, thank you, Sandy. All right, so I want to welcome everybody to the regular city council meeting on September the 21st, 2021. I want to welcome also KJIW, the Helena-West Helena World, and any other media we might have on tonight. Also, we have, I know, Laney Richmond, who is a lawyer with Arkansas Municipal League, and I don't know if he's on yet, but he's on the agenda. So anyway, welcome to everybody, and Ms. Sandy, call the roll.
Davis. St. Columbia.
Here.
Crockett. Franklin.
Here.
Etherly.
Here.
Ford.
Miss Ford says she'll be a little late, but she will be attending.
Okay. I have 4 present, including the mayor.
Great. So we have a quorum, and I want to say that I want to preface the meeting by saying that I think the whole felt a wave of positivity after the last meeting, because we weren't able to maintain a quorum more than 2 hours, I don't think, but we got a lot accomplished and we got along, more importantly, and I'm going to do everything I can tonight to continue that good wave of new feelings. So hopefully we can all work together and try to get this city moving. But it was a good meeting, and I heard a lot of good positive comments from it. So I hope we can keep that going. I'm going to do my best to do my part. So the first thing on the agenda will be the minutes of September 7th, which are in your packet. Any questions about the minutes? Sorry.
I move we accept the minutes for the September 17th. Am I correct?
September 7th.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made by Mr. Franklin, seconded by St. Columbia. Mr. St. Columbia, any questions or comments? If not, call the roll.
Etherly.
Yes.
Davis. Crockett. Franklin.
Yes.
St. Columbia.
Yes.
Smith.
Yes.
Miss Davis has just come on. Miss Davis, we're just approving. Abstain. Okay. All right, they pass.
The next thing on the agenda is Mr. Turner's the one, I believe. I saw him earlier for the financials for August. Mr. Turner.
Okay, I'm going to keep this brief. I know you guys have a lot on the agenda, and I believe some of the city council members have to leave early. And so I'm just going to make this brief. As far as the general fund is concerned, through August 31st, 2021, we had cash in the bank of $300,373. We had a gain from operations of $580,000 and $580,799. And those two figures come from the general fund. I want to give an update on the overtime. through the last payroll, which was last week, the fire department is $12,231.59 over budget, over appropriations. And the police are $38,047.19 over budget as far as overtime is concerned. I'd also like the council to know that I included in the August Treasurer's Report the American Rescue Plan Fund. You'll find those financials at the end of the report. And the cash that we had on hand in the American Rescue Plan at the end of August 31st was $1,057,037.48. And through the end of August, the city council had appropriated $305,000 of those Rescue Act funds. I know that the city council approved some appropriations for September, but I'm not sure if all of those are eligible expenses. And what I mean by if they're eligible to be spent with rescue fund money. We have a rescue plan guidance Zoom call tomorrow with the Arkansas Municipal League, and I'm sure I'll get some more information on eligible expenditures, and I'll update the city council on those eligible expenditures at the next city council meeting. So are there any questions or comments?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I was wondering about the water department payment to the city. How you doing? I was trying to see how's that coming along. Has the water department made? How's the water department functioning? Because I was looking at when I was looking to see how they're maintaining. Because have they paid the city the money for the sanitation department, the fees, all of those? I'm trying to see, have they paid the money that they normally pay to the sanitation department?
Mr. Franklin, I know they have made some payments. I don't know how many more they owe us. I mean, how many months they are behind. I guess maybe Miss Ramsey can answer that, but I know they've made some payments.
Because
Miss Ramsey, can you?
Council is aware.
Go ahead, Mr. Franklin.
I don't think the city council is aware of that the water department hasn't been paying the money to the sanitation department, and that's one of the things that the city council should be aware of what's going on with that. So I think that how many months have they not paid the money to the sanitation department? How many months are we behind? Are they behind on paying the city?
They owe us about 3 months, Mr. Franklin.
And that's a total of what, Ms. Ramsey?
It'd be approximately 130,000 a month is what sanitation runs. That's about 390,000.
Okay. So do they know why? Can somebody tell us why that we haven't received that money? Because that money goes to the sanitation department. And if we're looking to do something for garbage trucks, anything like that, how can we, and I'm not going to jump into that right now, but I just want the council to be aware of what's going on with that. We should be in the loop of that, but that's 3 months.
Yes, yes.
So can you give us can you give the council the total of how much for 3 months?
Approximately 390,000.
So 380,000. Okay. So I just want to make sure that we know how much we haven't received. And if somebody from the water department will Mr. Patterson or somebody be on the line tonight. So if it's possible, we could discuss that issue.
Mr. Franklin, I can email you guys I can figure out an exact amount for you, and I can email you that amount tomorrow if you would like me to.
What? See, that's fine, Mr. Turner, and I appreciate that. But I wish that we need to know these things because, like, I know because I've been asking and asking. I mean, you have conversations about it, so I'm just constantly asking. I think the body should know as well, so we can be ahead of the game. So that's all I see for now. But I mean, I'll let's move forward because we do have a long agenda. But Ms. Ramsey and Mayor, can we please put that on the next month agenda to discuss what is going on, how about the water department, because we need those funds. If we're gonna try to buy new garbage trucks, we're gonna try to do something new. We need those funds from the water department. And how is the water department functioning? How they're not able to pay their bills? Okay, so I said we need to know what happened. What happened with the water department's funding that we can't they can't operate without paying the sanitation department's finances. And I'm sorry for that long conversation, but that's what I was kind of worried about.
First of all, of course, we will put that on the agenda for the next meeting. And then secondly, what I think they will say is that we've had so many water emergencies in recent months that it's mostly been a cash flow problem because we have so many people that, I think in part because of our history with some of these accounts of not paying timely, they want to be paid up front. And when you call somebody on an emergency, you know, they're less likely to come if they don't get paid. And so that has been more of a, or at least I'm going to tell you what I'm told about it, but I think it's worthy of more discussion at the next meeting. So we'll put it on the agenda.
Thank you so much, Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions, Mr. Turner? Okay. Mr. Valley, are you on?
Yes, I am on.
I know we have a few people that have some, including you, have some time issues tonight. So unless there's an objection, and with apologies to Ms. Davis, and then we will promise you get to this one, Ms. Davis. But I know we have a couple of Mr. Valley and I think Mr. Edley have to leave earlier. So I was going to ask Mr. Valley, our city attorney, if he would sort of take over the gavel and deal with a couple of issues that you were asked to deal with, Judge Carter's issues and a couple of other things. You have so many things on the agenda tonight, and then
Yes,
you
sir.
also have a guest here. So I thought I'd just turn that over to you and let you manage that if that's okay. And if there's no objection, I know it's out of order, but we're trying to do this in a way
Yes,
where
sir.
we can, before some of our
Okay.
folks leave.
Mayor, my issue can be moved into the next meeting. It'll be fine.
Okay. You've been very patient. But if there's no objection, we'll do that. Thank you, Ms. Davis. And I did send out a list of September lists for y'all to look at and follow up on as well if you want.
Yes, I received.
But anyway, go ahead, Mr. Valley. I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I thought I'd be heard. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Can y'all hear me okay? Okay,
Yes.
thank you. I was first, is Mr. Lanny on the phone? Lanny Richmond? Is he on the line? He's with the Arkansas Municipal League. Mr. Richmond, the mayor, has been talking to him, and I've been talking to him about a proposed truck ordinance to deal with all of the situations on Pontotoc and Arkansas streets and throughout the city. And it's a replacement ordinance. If you remember, we were sued and the judge issued an injunction against us. An injunction, from a legal standpoint, in essence means that you're going to lose the case because the law is so clear that one of the rules for an injunction is you can't get an injunction unless the person is going to win on the merits of the case. So the judge basically said he was going to find that they had irreparable harm. When I talk about irreparable harm, I'm talking about consolidated grain down at the down near the river port, near the levee. And we repealed that ordinance. Mr. Travis drafted an ordinance that's a replacement. He's going to talk further in detail about it. He wanted to address it this evening, but I guess he's not on the line. But it would create a truck route when you go through, and it calls for the counts for people to have to post a bond if they were over 50,000 pounds to go down certain streets. And so they would have to place a bond in the amount of $75,000. This ordinance is still a work in progress. The mayor wanted it so we can discuss it in greater detail. And one of the things that we have to do is determine what truck route. Your previous ordinance, the truck route was the state highways. If we go down any city street, then they were prohibited from doing so. We can adopt that as well. One of the things that we wanted to talk to Mr. Travis, Mr. Land and Richmond about also was the issue with the pending litigation in Arkansas Street, because we didn't want to seem like we were running afoul to what the court had ordered to give a restraining order against us. And so that's the update on the ordinance. Y'all had a copy. It's blank in many ways. But in talking to Mr. Richmond, the language that we were going to add to it is keep the same route, which is all the state highways. Our previous ordinance had just the state highways in it, and that a truck over a certain weight cannot go down the city streets. Of course, it was so outdated that the weight that was in our previous ordinance, basically all pickup trucks and SUVs were over the amount, and so the judge said he'll strike it down. But I would like this placed on the next agenda so that we can get this resolved and get all the language in, and he can be here to swear it because he's the city's representative in the lawsuit in federal court. Does that create any questions for anyone? And any questions, comments, or statements for anyone?
Forward clarification. So you're saying the established truck route will be any city street? Is that what you're saying?
No, ma'am. What I suggested we follow the same ordinance that we had before. The route was heavy trucks were allowed on any state highway. They were not allowed down city streets. And so we probably do something similar in this ordinance. The issue was they weren't allowed to drive down through the neighborhoods, et cetera. And but we have to establish a definite truck route in this ordinance.
Okay, thanks for clearing that up.
Yes, ma'am.
Any
other? Yes, sir, Ms. St. Columbia.
What specific street would you recommend to establish as a truck route?
The state highways.
Only state highways.
That's still my recommendation, and we're waiting on Mr. Travis to look at that. Not Mr. Travis. I keep saying Travis. His name is Richmond. But we're waiting on him to also agree with that. But I think the route in the other ordinance was fine. I think the thing about it was the weight and the outdated language in it. But currently, before we had to repeal that ordinance, large trucks could only go down the state highway routes and not through the residential areas.
Well, and let me qualify or add to Mr. Valley there. They can use city streets, Mr. St. Columbia, but they have to post a bond according to the proposed draft ordinance. If you should adopt it, if you should adopt it, they could, but they would have to post a bond before they could, so that if there's any damage, then we can file a claim on that bond to fix the streets. So is that right, Mr. Valley? Something like that?
Correct. That's correct. Because the issue is the issue that the previous city council 50 years ago was trying to get to, and the same issue you're trying to get to now, is when these large trucks that are heavily weighted go down residential roads, the roads are destroyed and the city has to repair them. So the proposal is for them to have to post a bond and go down certain streets. And so that if they continue to do so, we would have a bond to file upon to try to remedy the issue. Arkansas Street and Pontotoc Street are being
annihilated.
Yeah.
I see where you're coming from. Okay.
So is there any?
That answered my question.
Okay, Ms. Ford is trying to ask a question. Ms. St. Columbia, will you finish?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Ms. Ford, what's your question, ma'am?
I understand what you're saying about the tearing up the streets and paying the bond for the repair or whatever. But sometimes those trucks inhibit the residents that live in that area from being able to get on the streets, get off the streets, that type of thing. Is there any consideration given to that?
I would go,
Can
I would discuss that.
can I interrupt and jump in for a minute? Because I was about to ask the same question. Let me try and make her question more pointed. And it's the same issue. My understanding is that the trucks have been blocking ingress and egress into private property. Is there anything about the court order that would prohibit law enforcement from addressing that? Can you hear me?
No, sir. No, sir. There's nothing to stop that. I wasn't made aware that they were blocking ingress and egress. Ingress and egress is just a matter of a citation. Like this, you can't. They should have some gaps between themselves so that traffic can flow through them. I mean, you just can't block people's ingress and egress to the house, especially if there were emergency to happen. How can I get in and out if you're blocking the intersections, etc.
Okay, and I'm sorry, Ms. Ford. I wanted to ask the same question, but I wanted to make it more legally pointed. So, what he's saying is that law enforcement can enforce traffic laws as it relates to the traffic.
Correct.
Okay.
And I would say, of course, for anybody listening, they have to call the police department just like they would anything if we don't have anyone in the area. But when we got called about a situation down at Helena Crossing where the trucks were lined up almost across the railroad tracks, and somebody tried to get around the truck and didn't see the train coming. And I actually heard you don't hear a train whistle that much anymore. I heard one blaring. Found out later it was because they almost hit a vehicle. So we sent police down there to keep those trucks far enough away so that even though they're lined up, the traffic could flow safely. So it's a public safety issue too, not just private property access. So, but we do have to know about it, and it's hard. That case, I mean, we were called, and so they started going down there in the mornings when they get lined up like that to make sure that it's safe. So, but yeah, we can still enforce, speeding and all the other traffic laws. We just can't enforce that ordinance that's on the signs down there because that ordinance was repealed until we replace it. And I just wanted to add, and I'll be quiet, is that there is a draft in your packet of that ordinance.
There is a rough draft in your packet, and it was for you all to look at. Part of the reason why we didn't want to do it immediately tonight also is you don't want to be arbitrary and capricious. This is something that you need to study and look at in detail before you just adopt it, especially with pending litigation about this very same thing. And so it's one of those things that I wouldn't ask you all to adopt tonight. I was asking for further discussion, and we look at it on the 5th, so that we can look at it in serious detail there. I will also send an email to Mr. Richmond about this issue so we can move forward. But I think the ordinance itself is in the rough draft form, has a pretty strong basis. We just need to establish the truck route. I believe that most people in probably would agree that the former truck route was good, which was limited to these state highways. And if they went to any other street, they would have to post a bond. With that, I yield to anybody that may have a question, comment, or statement.
Only thing I would say is it sounds good to me. I would recommend proceeding as you're indicated.
Okay, so what I would do, I will update it and email it to Atlanta Traffic before the week is over. And some further discussion, I'll copy you all on that issue. And so, Mayor, I don't think we have to table it. I think we could just put it on the next agenda for October the 5th, for us to have an ordinance in place on October the 5th. Can we get a consensus of the body to do that?
You have my permission.
Yeah, I think we all want to get this done.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let's get that on that agenda for next time.
Okay.
And let's re-invite Mr. Richmond again.
I will. I will re-invite him. I'll send him an email before this council meeting is over. if I may move to the next issue, any
Yeah,
other questions
go
on the
ahead.
issue before I move to the next issue?
Go.
The next issue is really of Judge Jason Carter. Judge Jason Carter, the clerk, has been here 6 months, and her the base pay says after 6 months she's entitled to raise. There's two issues in one. I do not have the contract ready for tonight. The mayor and I have met with the county attorney and the county judge and the district court judge, Jason Carter. As it relates to this, the first stage is Mr. Carter was asking for a raise from base pay. She's been there 6 months, so she's complied with base pay. And he was asking for the current clerk's salary to go to $42,000. He sends his apologies. He sent me a text message. He has a migraine headache, and he's lying down now in a dark room because he cannot be on the line tonight. But he had talked to me and the mayor about it, and he wanted to place out. He had sent me an email about it. The salary that he requested is $42,000. And then question $42,000 for the clerk. It's two or three things that he wanted to address. First, he wanted her pay raise to go to $42,000. And before we go forward to others, I will entertain any conversation about that before we go forward and talk about the contract and et cetera. But before I ask the question, I'm sorry, let me pause for a second. I'm getting ahead of myself. The mayor's meeting with me and County Judge Hall and with Amy Boyd, the county attorney, and with Jason Carter was about the statute says that the county is to pay half of the clerk's salary, the chief clerk salary. And so what we have agreed to in principle, but we have not agreed to in writing, is that the county would reimburse us for half of the salary going forward. And the auditors had told them not to pay any salary until we get an agreement in writing. And so on the 5th, we're trying to have an agreement in writing for us and the county, so we can begin in October for them paying half of the salary. And so, and then the second person, there are 4 clerks in office. You have the chief clerk, you have the silver clerk, you have the person who handles the city docket, the person who handles the county docket. The person who handles the county docket makes up about 1/3 of the criminal cases in the court. So the Judge Hall and Ms. Boyd agreed in principle that the county would reimburse the city for 1/3 of the overall cost. And so what the agreement would provide is that they would pay 50% of the cost of the chief clerk, whose salary is on the agenda tonight for $42,000 proposed, and 1/3 of the current salary for the person who handles the county docket. The payment would go to the city, not to the person. And also, we would include all the other things that come with the salary. I talked to Mr. Turner about that. I didn't have that from Mr. Turner because I had forgot about it. I'm not blaming Mr. Turner. I had simply forgot that, salary is more than just salary. We still need retirement and all the other benefits that we pay relating to this if we're going to finalize the contract. And so Mr. Turner's going to get back with me on that part. And we were making a proposal to county which would include the proposed $42,000 salary, whatever the insurance benefits are and whatever the other things are that come with a salary, as well as 1/3 of the current county docket clerk salary. And so that's where we are. Those are discussions. We're trying to get this done on October 5th, but those are things. But for tonight, I emailed you all that before, but for tonight, the issue that the judge is wanting is for us to have the firm salary at $42,000 for what he wants. That's the first issue the judge wants. The second issue the judge wants to address, he talked to me and the mayor about, is he would like base pay to be amended for the future to show a salary scale versus just a solid number. When we come on October 5th, he's looking at a salary scale versus right now you have a set salary. I don't know what it is, but he was saying that if he had his druthers, he'd rather show salary scale from, for instance, for 35 to 39,000. That ain't the number he was saying. I'm just saying that just for example. But he wanted the position in the clerk's office so he wouldn't have to constantly come back about base pay to have an initial scale for salaries. But tonight, the only thing that we're talking about is the $42,000, which would be a raise for the current chief clerk.
Mr. Val.
Yes, sir.
Now, the changing of the base pay, I'm willing to compromise. I don't want to. Just me personally, I think the base pay is good is good at where it was gonna get. I would go for the person in the position as the court clerk to get the raise because they have met the 6 months. I'm for that. So I mean, we can. I'm willing to go on for that, but for changing the base pay as of right now, I'm not for that. So I mean,
Well, yes, sir.
Hey,
On the agenda,
Andre,
yes, sir.
Mr. Ballot, can you don't forget to mention about the chief clerk has to be the highest paid in the
Oh, yeah.
office.
Thank you, Ms. Turner. Thank you for reminding me. Currently, because of our base case structure, we're out of step with what the law is. The chief clerk is supposed to be the highest paid clerk in the office. And currently, she's not the highest paid clerk in the office. So we also want to change base pay to reflect that in the future. But the chief clerk is to be the highest paid, and she's currently not. But tonight on the agenda, the only thing he was addressing was the 42,000. On the 5th, we addressed those other things. But he was requesting a pay raise from what she's making, which is the base pay, to 42,000.
okay, well, I moved to give her the 42,000.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I yield to you to call the question.
All right. Motion made by Mr. Franklin, seconded by Mr. St. Columbia to approve a raise by the district court clerk. And Mr. Valley, what's the exact
salary-
amount?
The salary 42,000.
42,000 even?
Let me look at my text. Let me look at my text message.
How about, can we say 42,000 even, or to meet the state required minimum for district court clerks?
Well, his text message says $42,000. I'm reading it now.
Okay.
I don't think any other clerk makes over 40,000, so we would be in compliance with state law.
Okay, 42,000. And seconded by, I think I already said this, Mr. St. Columbia. Any questions or comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
Franklin,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Etherly,
Yes.
Forward,
Yes.
Crockett, St. Columbia,
Yes.
5 yes, 1 absent.
Mr. Mayor, I want to bring, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I want to bring your attention. Mr. Richmond has joined us. He's on the line. So I don't know if anyone wanted to revisit the issue about the ordinance. Mr. Richmond, we thank you for being on the line. We thank you for being here. What we discussed a minute ago was just the rough draft of the ordinance, and we're going to sit on October 5th, that date. But if you have any comments, anything you want to prior to council, please do so.
Yeah, I'll add. I don't know what was said. That is on me. So I'll make sure. Can everyone hear me? Let me start there.
Yeah, we
Yes.
can hear you. And
Perfect.
welcome.
So I'll say that honestly, despite the problems we had with the previous ordinance, this is one of the areas that cities have a lot of power in. We have several statutes that explicitly give us powers to regulate things like this, in addition to what I think would be a pretty normal inherent power. So, I think that it's a very reasonable ordinance. I haven't seen the final mock-up, but what me and Andre had worked on seems very justifiable. So I think it's a good ordinance. And if y'all have any questions, or Mayor, if you need any certain comments from me, just let me know.
Well, first of all, let me say, for people who might not know, Lanny Richmond is the attorney with the Arkansas Municipal League, who is working with our city attorney, Mr. Valley, who you've already heard from, on the revised ordinance to replace the ordinance that was repealed at the urging of a federal judge who heard or was hearing a case that we had against us when I tried to enforce the existing ordinance and put up some signs, and basically the federal judge said to our council, this ordinance is extremely outdated and you need to probably remove this one and repeal this one and replace it with one that is more modern. And so since that time, Mr. Richmond has been working with Mr. Valley to get us that ordinance, and it's in the packet in the draft form. And Mr. Richmond, we had a pretty good discussion earlier, but I want to open it up to anybody who has a question, and we put it on the agenda. We hope for final approval at our next regularly scheduled meeting. But anybody have any questions of Mr. Valley? And just go ahead. Turn it back to you, Mr. Valley.
Yes, sir. Mr. Richmond, one of the questions that they had that was very pointed was, we have the business as a part of that lawsuit. The trucks that block many of the roads, and they were asking for advice relating to the actions that we could take relating to those regulating traffic and ingress and egress and public safety, relating to them being all bumper to bumper from that plant all the way back down Arkansas Street and Pontotoc and others over in that area.
So the question now isn't really about weight limits or, destruction of road. It's about just more general traffic concerns of closeness. Is that about right?
Yes, sir. That's one of the concerns. Yes, sir. One of the concerns.
I have not put a lot of thought into that, so forgive me. Again, this is an area we have a lot of power, so maybe we need to talk, and maybe you and I brainstorm, Andre, on what could be some solutions for that. And I don't really have anything off the top of my head, but we have power in here if we can think of a good way to go about it. So maybe we just need to put some thought into that. So I'll try and do that.
Yes,
I
sir.
would ask that you would put some thought into that. There is one street, St. Francis Street, that is habitated by about, less than 12 families or whatever, but that is their only way in and out, St. Francis Street. And those trucks are going down that street. Please look at that.
Absolutely. So, Andre, I may need you to fill me in on some of the geography of it, but
Yes.
yeah, absolutely.
Yes, I'll look at Google Maps or something like that and download something to send you a copy, so we could look at the geography that they're talking about.
Perfect.
And so we could look at the phone. But I told them already, I will email you this proposed truck route, because the previous ordinance, what I informed them was it prohibited any truck going down any road other than the state highways. And I was saying that the language we probably would adopt to that would be something similar, for them to have to post a bond to go down the residential roads.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I will say it absolutely makes sense, council member, to do all of this at once, to get as many of the problems out of the way at the same time while we're doing it, just if people want to complain, we can handle it all together, I think would make the most sense.
Well,
Excuse me.
Yes.
Go ahead, Attorney Val.
Oh, go ahead, Ms. I was about to ask Ms. Crockett, was anybody else had any questions? Go ahead.
Well, my thing is Pontotoc included in this, because they're actually, that I thought at one time we had where they couldn't go down Pontotoc because of the weight limit, and it destroyed the actual road and start causing flooding area, part of the streets to flood. So is Pontotoc included in this?
Well, it would be all residential roads included. They would have to post a bond to go on any residential road. But yes, we're specifically aware of Pontotoc, as well as St. Francis, as well as Arkansas Street, and those areas over there that head down toward consolidated grain. But consolidated grain isn't the only issue. There are other issues around the city that we have. The Planning Commission used to raise a big deal about all the trucks parking. Now, this ordinance doesn't address parking within the streets, and that's one of the things that someone else brought to my attention once they looked at it, because we used to have issue with the trucks overnight parking down, bringing trucks to the houses and all that kind of stuff. And so one of the Planning Commission members brought that to my attention as well, that they wanted us to look at that as part of this ordinance, because when you repeal the ordinance, you repealed it in its entirety.
I would just ask, I'd ask both of you, if you would, I think the question I would ask is the same question, only a little differently, is it possible if, and Mr. Richmond, you're going to have to look at the draft ordinance, but as you look at it and consider it for the next meeting for final passage, the question would be, if we don't want them to go down Pontotoc or St. Francis, for example, do we have to issue a bond, and can we prevent them from going down there if we don't issue a bond, if we don't approve it? So they could buy a bond. I think the question is, can we prohibit that on certain streets, even if they could buy a bond? And I don't know the answer. That's why I'm asking the question, but I don't, I would look at that, because one of the issues will be, if we pass it like that, well, they'll just buy a bond. We'll say, okay, you got your bond, now you can continue to do what you were doing, and then we will file a claim on it when they do damage to the streets. But I think a bigger issue, that's a huge issue, but the other issue is just some of the residents in those streets are tired of those trucks using their street, which has been pointed out as shortcuts and shortcut routes that really weren't ever intended for that kind of traffic to begin with. So your bond would have to be pretty high, but can you turn them down for that? I mean, I don't know the answer. I'm asking.
Mayor, God, and I do need to think about it more. So don't take this as a gospel. But I that as long as they still have access, through some good route, that it's possible to certainly cut off purely residential streets, at least to some degree. Maybe we're now thinking of a bit of a tiered system where some are flat prohibited, some are bond only, and some are free, the highways and the major roads. That seems rational to me, but I'll need to double check some cases to make sure I'm not missing something.
Okay.
Mayor, this is Ever James.
Yes,
We have Pastor Robinson, who is in the audience, who is one of the principal proponents for the area down there. He is a pastor of Beautiful Zion. Would you allow him, please, to speak on this matter, since it really concerns his church, his parishioners who live in that area?
But Ms. Ford, of course, I want to. I've asked Mr. Valley kind of take the gavel, because he and Mr. Etherly have some time constraints. So I'll pass that request on to Mr. Valley, because he really is kind of.
Mayor, this is an issue of great public interest. I have no objection to to the pastor Robinson asking either me or Mr. Richmond any questions, because this is the genesis. His church was the genesis of all of this. So if I don't know if his mic is muted or what, but if the body has no objection, I have no objection.
Okay, Mr. Robinson.
Let's see the council meeting.
Mr. Robinson. If you're on the meeting, if you could mute if you're not speaking, Mr. Robinson, or Reverend Robinson. Mr. Robinson.
Can you hear me?
Reverend Robinson. Yes,
Yes.
we'll try to keep it kind of brief, because we've got some members that are going to have to leave early, but you're recognized.
I just put one expression. We had a terrible experience this Sunday. We're mindful that they got to get down to that granary, but they blocked us in Sunday. We could not get out of our parking lot when we exit our church. They were going down Pontotoc Street South, and they had the whole parking lot blocked all down Arkansas Street. We had to wait. Had we had an emergency, we couldn't have gotten out. And that is so wrong, to where we cannot have holy worship, and I think you guys passed that resolution last year, a couple of years ago. We put 3 patches on that street, 3 patches. And when those trucks start coming back down there, they're going to destroy that road. And now, as far as St. Francis Street, the citizens on that east side of St. Francis Street have no parking spaces. They have no driveways. They have no other alternative other than park in the street. And so it is just impossible for there to be safety down Pontotoc Street and that street, especially on Sunday. Now, we know that the harvest season don't last that long, but they do not need to block my members in on Sunday. We have members not in the best of health. And we couldn't get out Sunday until they decided to move them trucks. And that was just totally wrong from our perspective. And I think from your perspective as well. And I've gone down and I've talked to Randy on 2 or 3 occasions, and I understand his need, but they have to give our church some consideration on Sunday worship. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, Reverend Robinson, and thank you for your patience. And we did try to enforce the current ordinance, and Chief Smith and I had officers down there. We issued citations, and that's why we were sued in federal court. And it went to federal court, and Mr. Richmond represented us. And the result was we were asked to repeal that ordinance and replace it with a new one. Meanwhile, as Mr. Etherly and Mr. Valley and others have pointed out, if there are any dangers to public safety, as I mentioned with the railroad situation, that's different. And if you please call the police department. Please call them if you feel like there's a public safety issue involved, or there's some obstinacy in allowing access. I urge y'all to do that until we, well, anyway, at any time, but also in 2 weeks, we should, I hope, Mr. Richmond, have a completed final version of this draft that we can all vote on. And then the others I would have, we'll ask again in 2 weeks is what I can do or what we can do to enforce it. Any other questions on this issue?
Well, Mr. Mayor,
I'm trying to be sensitive. Yes, sir. Mr. Valley, I'm turning it back over to you because of the time.
Thank you. No problem. One thing I want to say to the city council, if there's anything that's not addressed in this rough draft that you have issues about, please contact me so that when Mr. Richmond and I give the final draft, that we'll have all those things. And so we won't, on October 5th, we won't be looking at, well, what about this and what about that? We just want to make sure that we try to address all the issues at once. Again, the planning commission made me aware of the parking that used to be the old one. And so anything like that you have, please contact me. Any other questions, comments, or statements? Or any questions for Mr. Richmond or myself?
I just want to tell both of y'all thank you for handling that, because that's been an issue, as Ms. Ford said, for Reverend Robinson and his church and the people on those streets. So I just want to tell you all thank you, and I hope we can get this issue resolved as soon as possible. Just thank you all both.
Okay, you're welcome. Mr. Richmond, did you have any other comments before you leave? We just want to thank you for taking the time to call in and being on the line.
Nothing other than sorry for my delay, and then just let me know when the next meeting is. I'll be there no matter what.
Yes, sir. Well, we greatly appreciate you taking the time. I know you represent a volume of cities through the municipal league, and we just thank you for being here at our council meeting. And if nobody has any questions, I believe you're free to go at this time. Did anybody have any questions before Mr. Richmond leaves?
I appreciate it. Thanks, y'all.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Richmond. Mr. Mayor, there were other issues on the agenda. We had discussed, we have several competitive bid waiver ordinances that we have previously submitted to you all. I don't know what the council's pleasure are on those, or if there's any discussion. I don't have the agenda sitting in front of me. Mr. Mayor, you can identify them. I can stay on the line a little longer. I've sent text messages to tell them I'm gonna be a little tardy, but go ahead. Mr.
Well, I'm gonna go to a couple of things if there's no objection that involve you, because I know you can't stay with us. Can kind of clarify something, because you did explain it really well, and I apologize if I missed something that I might have. Did we approve the allocation, the county city allocation formula or not? I know we just talked about it, and then we did the salary increase.
Right, we didn't approve the county city. We didn't approve that. I was trying to deal with the first issue.
So we want to put that on the next agenda.
Yes, because I will have a ordinance added contract for the next council agenda. But the general consensus is 50% for the chief clerk, 33% for the deputy clerk. And I need Mr. Turner to finalize. He and I got to get together this week to see what the overall salary is for each one of those individuals.
Okay, thanks. I know we talked about it. I'm looking at our agenda here and I couldn't
Yes, sir.
remember we actually. So we'll put that, make sure we have that on the next agenda. The other
Yes.
things, Mr. Valley, Tom, we've got a couple of things. You can decide how you want to do it. The Newman Drive issue and the interlocal agreement issue. And then there's the memorial signage issue. Those are the ones I see on the agenda. You want to do any of those?
Okay, the memorial sign issue, I still have not gotten the amount, but I'm waiting on the council's direction as to, do y'all want me to put an amount in the ordinance? Because I've been asking you all, I don't mean to be saying that in a manner where I appear to be chastising. I'm not trying to be chastising. What I was trying to give was direction as to the amount to put in there for application, as well as for them paying any fees. And there was a third issue that was in the ordinance that you all were going to discuss. That issue was whether it would expire at the end of 10 years. And so questions have been raised by that. I don't know if y'all ready to deal with that. If y'all want to table and go to another date, then that's fine with me. I just need direction.
Anybody want to comments or questions from Mr. Valley on the memorial signage issue?
Mayor, Mr. Valley, if you want to take the lead on it, with me personally, I'm fine with it. I mean, I'll go whatever you suggest.
Anybody else? So the issue, to remind people, yes, is we've had 2 or 3 streets request for memorial signage in memory of 1 or 2 or 3 people, and that normally goes through a certain process. And so the council asked Mr. Valley to review that process and possibly work with the planning commission and come up with the process.
And the main points were in that ordinance. It said the person had to be of some significance, that the person is known. The other issue in it was whether it was expired. Many cities only do a designation for 10 years. If you pass the ordinance as it is, then every one of them that you've already done would have to reapply, because all of them, well, most of them are nearing a 10-year designation. The other part was the city has not charged a fee, but most cities charge a fee, application fee, as well as make the person responsible by paying a bond for what the cost would be for the signs, and to require that the person, they maintain all the signs. Currently, the city purchases all the signs, puts all the signs up, and et cetera. And if one comes down, the city replaces them. And since it's an ordinary designation, the issue that's in the ordinance is it would make the onus on the party requesting and not on the city.
What is your
Mr. St. Let me go ahead.
What is your recommendation, Mr. Valley, on the amounts that should be for the application as well as the placing of the signs? Do you have, what other cities are paying or receiving? What is it?
I don't have the number before me, but many of them that I've read, just all over the nation, they anywhere from $250, some as high as $1,500. But many of them are on the money. Most of them are somewhere between $300 to $500 for the application.
Yeah.
That's not for the actual signage and all that. And there's an application fee, and then there's a fee for purchasing. You post a bond for the purchasing of all of the signs. Now the application fee is non-refundable too. That's one of the things that's in that ordinance.
Okay, well, you need to make a recommendation and put it in there so we can vote on it.
And what I'll do is email you all just numbers and stuff, so we can move off of this point, and so we can get it done.
Right.
Is that fine with the body?
That's fine with me.
Okay.
The only thing I'd kind of like to clarify for the public, because I do think there's some confusion. We're talking about memorial signage, and you really just said this, but to say it again, I guess, it doesn't necessarily mean we're dishonoring anybody that is named after currently, or any historic name, or basically the common names that we're using. Now correct me if I'm wrong about this, but what I'm saying is we place memorial signage above where the sign is, it is a name, memorial name change, but it's kind of like you have two names still. It's not like you were making a decision between. I think some people make it a little bit bigger controversially than it really is.
Right. One other thing is the ordinance requires the sign to be black and gold as it relates to our green signs. There will be a clear distinction between these signs as well as the city sign, so people know what the actual street name is and what versus the honorary street name is.
Right, that sound makes sense. Mhm.
Now, part of the 10-year, doing research on it, part of the 10-year thing that some of you may feel uncomfortable with is signs wear out and et cetera. So many, on average, many of them, if you have an issue with signs or signs coming down, people taking them, at some point around that time period, you're gonna have to replace some of the signs anyway. And so part of that is to continue to have the onus on the person paying for the signs versus the city paying for them. Now, I don't know the life of a sign, but it varies in many cities in the fact that some signs that are very popular, people take for souvenirs. And that's always going to be an issue. Some people see a sign that's important to them, a nice name or something like that, and they say, a sign, and they go and take it. That's why a lot of our signs are missing, because the people take them for souvenirs.
Yeah, that's why it's hard to find a sign that says Elvis Presley Boulevard, except in a gift shop.
Right. Right. Now, I'm not trying to operate in haste, but is there any other questions about the street sign? So that's the third thing for October the 5th. But is that fine? You all just want me to come up? My understanding, my directions is I do the application fee and the bond fee and put it in, and you all fine with everything else in that. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's the way I feel about it.
Okay, I will do so. I'll send you all email about it just with some suggestions. What's next, Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Name and drive or interlocal agreement?
Interlocal agreement, interlocal agreements, well, we already tabled that to the 5th. We already have to bring it back to the 5th. Are you talking about the court interlocal agreement, or are you talking about the other interlocal agreement with the county?
No. The interlocal approval to utilize project approval and so forth. It has to be, I think,
okay.
It has to be done.
Interlocal agreement. I sent a copy of the interlocal agreement to you all via email, and I apologize, Ms. Crockett. I don't know if we put one in your box or not. But the county passed the ordinance back in 2003, establishing the rates for interlocal agreements, and it's set by their county ordinance. And I had talked to the mayor and the county judge about it and saying, hey, some of these projects we probably could do by doing an interlocal agreement with the county, because they said what the rates were, and I emailed a copy of the ordinance. And so one thing I was trying to do is talk to the mayor and the county judge and the council about, if we use the county for many of these projects, it really probably would help save us money, and we would keep money. You would have a clearer picture as to what we're doing on some of these projects and et cetera. And so I don't know what projects the mayor has, but what I was asking is that the city council and the mayor consider engaging the county on many of the projects that we have that the county can do. The county has one of the best road departments around. And Mr. Hall, when he met with me, and Judge Hall, when he met with me and the mayor, he said that they can do everything except for the blacktopping for any road. And they do a really good job. We talked about projects in landfill. We talked about renting their dump trucks on a temporary basis. But the mayor is more privy. I don't know if they had any further conversation from when the mayor and I met with him. But that's the purpose of the interlocal agreement.
I direct y'all, because all the council members, I think you get a see in Town Magazine. I hope you do. Anyway, inside it is an article by Mark Stodler, his column, where he talks about interlocal agreements, and it's really, really good. I would just say that we did one not long after I became mayor over the Walton grant to remove blighted houses. So that it took a little, I'm kind of impatient. It took a little longer than I would have, but you do have to, have a good working relationship. You have to be on the same schedule. I think scheduling is probably the biggest problem with it, but it can save resources, and we do have a lot of the same goals, and it can be a win-win too. So I agree with Mr. Valley on that, and I'm for it. I'm not sure what we need to do on it. unless,
Well, if
do we
you
need to
have,
wait for a specific project, or do we have to have like an ongoing interlocal?
no, they've
Or do
already
we
done
need
it.
to-
This, I'm sorry, I was talking kind of fast, man. Let me slow down. The ordinance is to lay out what their rates are already. So it's available for any project that you would have. The only issue that you would have potentially is if it's over $5,000 or 7,500. But the interlocal agreement would be, the council could approve it if you just know it's over 7,500, that we're gonna do it with the county, and that would cure a lot of that because we would have a contract. And so
Let's see.
many of the things about it is when we're spending money with the county and the county spending money with us, I think that's in the best interest of the citizens of Phillips County as well as the citizens of Helena-West.
Same taxpayers.
Yes.
Same taxpayers. Is there anything that needs to be done on it tonight? And then Mr. Franklin?
If you have any projects on it, then you can look at those, but I just wanted to make the body aware and make the mayor aware. And I was trying to see what we could do to make, to better serve the citizens with financially.
Mr. Franklin?
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm happy about this because since I've been on the council, I've been saying we need to keep money in Phillips County. And if they can do the same for us, if we got something they need that we can charge them for, I'm willing to do it. I wish more businesses in the city and the county start using local people. That's how we can start building new homes, having better jobs, better wages when we can do business with each other instead of going outside of the city, finding somebody else or the county, finding somebody else to let them make money. I wish all vendors and businesses in Phillips County take heed to this. That's Barton all around. Marvel, take heed and start using local people. So that's how we can build a better Phillips County.
Now, related to that, thank you, Mr. Franklin. I don't want to hold the conversation, but related to that, I've been meeting with the mayor and been talking to Mr. Philip Fields and been talking to Mr. Jones. Ever since we opened the landfill, we've been wanting to do a citizen convenience center for us to do all that. And part of this discussion that we had was about the county working on a road for us. A citizen convenience center is not a transfer station, but it's a place. Our issue that we've been having with our landfill is that all the trucks have to go all the way into the landfill and to the dumping site to get rid of waste. One of the things I wanted the council to start discussing was the citizens convenience center, and I talked to the mayor about it because I've been strongly advocating this for years. Mr. Fields wants to do it. Of course, it costs money. So what I was asking is the council to consider at some point us looking at doing the agreement with the county as well as authorizing Mr. Fields to do the engineering work to begin to develop a citizens convenience center so we can see what the costs are and what the actuarials would be so we can do it. Because this issue has been an issue for every mayor. And it's one of those things that this mayor was excited when we came in with Forest City and St. Francis County trying to divert their waste. And it's something that we have to do to go for progressively so it won't go beyond this mayor and this mayor can get it resolved and we won't have to deal with it anymore. But it's not for the agenda tonight, but I want you to consider for the 5th so that we can have with the fields to begin to do some preliminary engineering work to look at what the costs are going to be. And the county look at what the road would be.
And Mr. Fields is looking at it, so we'll put that on the agenda for the next meeting, Mr. Valley. Citizens Convenience Center at the landfill and a county city joint interlocal agreement on the road.
Yes, sir. Well, I thank you for that.
I'm not exactly sure which time is, unless there are other questions on that. Newman Drive, touch on that.
I'm trying to remember Newman Drive.
Newman Drive, city or county?
I haven't finished that, man. You said Newman Drive. I had to pause and think about city or county. Mr. Wyland talked to me about it, and that's one of the things that we may do. That's what you just brought my memory. I'm supposed to get Mr. Wyland and get with the county to see if the county or city, or is it something we do an interlocal agreement on the city? And I have not finished that discussion. I did not get with the county judge and with Mr. Wyland this week. And So I will do that for the October the 5th meeting. I apologize, Ms. Ford. You've asked me about that before. I apologize, Mr. Mayor. You've asked me about that before.
Why don't we just make, put on the next agenda, interlocal agreements proposed and put the Citizens Convenience Center, excuse me, county or Landfill Road and Newman Drive, because actually that's a pretty good example, or it might be, and we'll see, I guess, a good example of a cooperative partnership, because some of the problem is caused by the city, but where the problem actually is might not be. So how do you know, it's still all of us, still the same taxpayers. So how can we cooperate to solve the problem? I don't have an answer. It might not be the answer, but it might be worth looking at that. How does that sound?
That's fine with me. That's fine. I'll look at that and I'll try to get your answer when I'm at City Hall Thursday. I've been swamped under lately at City Hall. The mayor's aware that we've had 5 large FOI requests that have taken a whole bunch of my time.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions about any of those? I'm just trying to, I know we're on a time frame schedule here with some of our council members in Mr. Valley. But I don't want to prevent anybody from asking questions. Okay, Mr. Valley, have I forgotten anything you want to deal with there? We do have a lot of ordinances, if you have time for any of them.
Yes, we can go ahead and do the ordinances while I'm on the line. I was trying to see which ordinances you have. I was trying to look at my email.
The first one would be ordinance 26, waiving competitive bidding for the mini excavator. And that's in the packet. And that would be kind of going back to the top of the agenda.
Yes, sir, that's fine. That's fine.
So ordinance number 26. Anyway. And what that is, that's the ditch digger. And it would be paid for out of Rescue Act funds. And just to remind everybody.
Well, just if I may, there are 3 ordinances on here that you all already discussed. You just didn't have the ordinance. And so you all asked me to draft them. We drafted them, and those are the 3 that's on the package about waiving competitive bidding. And the other issue was we didn't have a full quorum to suspend the rules on some of them. And so we tabled them all to this meeting. And that's what those 3 are about waiving competitive bidding. Y'all have discussed all 3 of those. With that, I yield back to the mayor. So, Mr. Franklin, you're moving to suspend the rules based on 3rd and final reading the title only?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
On ordinance number 26 or all of them?
We're not doing one at a time.
Doing one, okay. So Ms. Franklin moves that we put ordinance number 26 on 3rd and final reading. Is there a second?
Second the motion.
Ms. Columbia seconds the motion. Any questions or comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
Davis,
Yes.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
Crockett, Franklin,
Yes, yes.
Etherly,
Yes.
Forward,
Yes.
Crockett. 5 yes, 1 absent.
It's ordinance number 26-2021, an ordinance waiving competitive bidding in accordance with Arkansas Code Annotated Section 1458-303, authorized the mayor to enter contract to purchase certain properties for the city of Helena-West for related purposes. There needs to be a motion to adopt.
So moved.
Package.
Mr. St. Columbia moved adoption, final adoption of ordinance number 26, 2021. Was that Mr. Franklin who seconded?
Yes.
Any questions or comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
Franklin,
Yes.
Crockett, Davis,
Yes.
Forward,
Yes.
Etherly,
Yes.
5 yes, 1 absent.
There's an emergency clause. There needs to be a motion on the emergency clause.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Mr. Franklin moves adoption of the emergency clause on ordinance number 26, 2021. And Mr. St. Columbia seconds the motion. Any questions or comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
Franklin,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Etherly,
Yes.
Forward,
Yes.
Crockett, St. Columbia,
yes,
5 yes, 1 absent.
Okay, orders number, is it 27, Sandy? Order number 27, the next one?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and which apparatus is this?
This is the Water Sewer Department waiving bidding in Carva work for $28,560. It was for pump work.
Ms. Crockett sends us a message, says she's trying to vote, y'all, but y'all can't hear me.
Okay,
She doesn't say what a vote is, but she says that we can't hear her. But Mr. Franklin, you moved to suspend the rules, place on third and final reading the title only.
Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
I so move, I second.
There's a motion is second to put ordinance number 27, 2021 on third and final reading. Any questions or comments about the motion?
Mr.
If
Mayor,
not, call the roll. Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Franklin.
Miss Crockett says she votes yes.
okay. Thank
On the
you.
previous, is that on the previous or on this one or both? Well, just ask her. And we'll
On
count her as a
everything
yes.
it says.
Mayor,
She
she
says
says
she's-
all.
She says all.
Okay. Okay. Anything else before we call the roll? If not, finish calling the roll.
Okay, Davis, St. Columbia,
Yes,
Crockett votes yes. Franklin,
Yes.
Etherly,
Yes.
Forward,
Yes.
Ms. Davis. 5 yes, 1 absent.
Ordinance number 27, 2021, an ordinance waiving competitive bidding in accordance with Arkansas Code Annotated Section 1458-303, authorizing the mayor to enter a contract to purchase certain property for the city of Helena-West for other related purposes. There needs to be a motion to adopt.
So moved.
second,
Mr. Franklin moves adoption. Ms. St. Columbia seconds the motion for final approval of ordinance number 27-2021. Any questions or comments about the motion?
Mayor,
If not,
if I may,
yes, yes.
Miss Ramsey, when we just voted, I think she said 1 absent, but Miss Crockett voted yes for all.
Yes, sir. I didn't hear anything from Ms. Davis.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Thank you for keeping up with me. I appreciate it.
All right.
I don't see Ms. Davis on, so,
Go ahead and call the roll and we'll see
Okay.
if she hears us still.
St. Columbia,
yes,
Franklin,
Yes.
Ms. Crockett votes yes. Davis, Forward,
Yes.
Etherly,
Yes.
5 yes, 1 absent.
There's an
Motion
emergency
passes.
clause, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion
Motion
to
adopted.
adopt the
Yes,
emergency
motion
clause?
passed.
Yeah, motion passes. Is there a motion to adopt the emergency clause for ordinance number 27,
moved.
2020? Mr.
second,
Franklin moves adoption. Mr. St. Columbia moves, my second on the motion to adopt the emergency clause on ordinance number 27, 2021. Any questions or comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
Franklin,
Yes.
Davis, Etherly,
Yes.
Forward,
Yes.
Ms. Crockett votes yes. St. Columbia,
yes,
5 yes, 1 absent.
The motion passes.
And ordinance number 2921, Ms. Ramsey, which apparatus is that for?
This is
Which
on
contract?
repair work on the Riggs Cat undercarriage for $31,096 at the landfill.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules, place on third and final reading the title only to order 29, 2021?
So moved.
Mr. Franklin, Mr. Franklin moves, Mr. St. Clement seconds the motion to put ordinance number 29, 2021 on third and final reading. Any questions about, comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
Ford,
Yes.
Etherly,
Yes.
Franklin,
Yes. Ms. Crockett says yes too, Ms. Ramsey.
Ms. Crockett votes yes. St. Columbia,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
6 yes. Thank you.
Okay, motion passes. Mr. Valley.
Ordinance number 2921, an ordinance waiving creative business in accordance with Arkansas Code annotated section 1458-303, authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract for the purchase of certain property for the city of Helena-West, Helena, and for other related purposes. Is there a motion to adopt?
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Franklin moves the final adoption of ordinance number 29, 2021. Mr. St. Clement seconds the motion. Any questions or comments about the motion? If not, call the roll.
Etherly,
Yes.
Ford,
Yes.
Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Crockett votes yes. Franklin,
Yes.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
6 yes. Motion carries.
There's a emergency clause, Mr. Mayor.
Is there a motion to approve the ordinance? The emergency clause for ordinance? Mr. Franklin moves adoption of the emergency clause, ordinance number 29, 2021. Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. St. Clement seconds the motion. Any comments or questions about the motion? If not, call the roll.
Davis,
Yes.
Etherly,
Yes.
Franklin, Ford. Oh, Franklin, yes. Ford,
Ford, yes.
Ms. Crockett votes yes. St. Columbia,
Yes.
6 yes. Motion passes.
Motion passes. Thank you. And Ms. Valley, thank you. And now I'm not sure where you are in your time, but that's most of your heavy lifting, and you did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that's.
So we're going to move on.
I think those are all the ordinances that are there. Does anybody have any questions before me before I get off? Because I have something that I've been texting. I have to take care of tonight, but I've been. But the city council meeting took priority. Is there any questions for me before I get off the line?
Thank you, Mr. Valley. Again,
I want to pause.
appreciate your hard work.
I want to thank all the city council and the mayor. I really have appreciated these past 2 city council meetings and the professionalism and the courtesy you all have shown each other. I greatly appreciate it. When I personally argued with several of you all about behavior and decorum, I did that publicly. I want to publicly praise everyone for the behavior in the past couple of meetings, and I greatly appreciate the professionalism and the courtesy that you all have shown and the job that you all are doing in the council meetings. Thank you all for a job well done.
Thank you, Mr. Valley, and thank you for your hard work.
Appreciate it, man. Thank you. Y'all have a good night.
Thank you. Again, we have gotten a lot done, and appreciate all of you. Okay, the next item is the map or list of location of fire hydrants completed, marked to be replaced, etc. So at the last meeting, but basically, I committed to updating you at this meeting, and where this is regarding the fire hydrant flow test and inspection on all of our fire hydrants in the city. And it's approximately about a $25,000 project, which y'all appropriated, but wanted to get an update before you appropriated the last part of it. And so I didn't do the map, but I did send you a list. And I also sent you a follow-up summary. And I think, I'm doing this from memory, but I think it was about 300 at the time I sent that, which was, I don't remember now, Friday. But anyway, it was roughly halfway through. About 311, I believe, or so fire hydrants had passed inspection, and we had roughly 60 that needed repairs, and about 20, or maybe of that 60 was 20, I can't remember, that needed to be replaced or significant replacement of some of the parts. They just weren't working and that kind of thing. So I sent that summary and also that list. They are still working on it. And I should have by this, I would say by the next meeting, they will be completed with the inspection process. And that will allow us, I believe, to submit an application to the ISO. Well, let me back up. As soon as our cadets graduating come back from the fire academy, and we can meet the 30 fireman roster requirement that we have to have, we might, or we will be able to submit this inspection report with that ISO application to lower our insurance rating from a 3 to a 2, which is the lowest a city our size can go. And that in turn reduces the insurance costs on anyone who pays for house insurance or fire insurance, or property insurance, commercial or residential inside our city limits. It might give people an added reason to stay within our city limits instead of leaving, because that's quite an achievement. We're not there yet. 3 is not bad though, really not. And I'm an insurance guy, so I know my ISO ratings. 2 is excellent, and we're very close to getting there. I'm not sure I actually have a request for you. I did promise Mr. Franklin, particularly that I would do an update. And maybe by 2 weeks, we'll have an updated GIS map, which is pretty cool. Any questions about that?
Well, Mayor, I just want to tell you thank you for keeping your word. If anything else needs to be done, I'm willing to work with you on whatever, but I appreciate you for the update.
Thank you, Mr. Franklin. Any other questions or comments about that?
I saw them out working this past week. They were up in my neighborhood, and I had to show them one of the fire plugs. It was covered up by grass and all. They found it and got it fixed.
Yeah, good. And if there's a plastic bag over it, that means it didn't pass inspection. And so one of the things they're going to do is come back with a separate project to repair those that don't pass inspection, and then we'll take that up at the time. And then they have a third proposal, which is to paint them. And other than just talking about it, we haven't moved much further than that. I have no idea what it would cost or anything else, but most of them need to be painted. The color paint is based on the water pressure. I didn't know that. I don't know if y'all did, but I didn't. They could use a paint job. The question is, can we afford it? And I don't really know if we can, because I don't know what it will cost. But that'll be something else later too. Just making you aware of it.
Hey,
Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I think that's a good thing. The city used to have a guy who went around and painted them, but if we could, I would be in favor. I said I want to keep money in the town in Phillips County. If you could find, I'm willing to work. If we come up with a price, see how much it would cost to paint them. See if they would paint half, and you can give the other. See who else would want to be in on to paint the other half, or somebody can paint them off. And I hope they be locally, so we can give some people here some finances and help it. Like I've been constantly saying, it is a good thing to work with people within Helena-West, Helena or Phillips County. They give us some more money. People shop locally. They spend money in the town if they can make money in the town. So if you want to start trying to get to work on that, trying to see some prices on what they would charge or what people charge in general just to paint fire hydrants, I'd be willing to work with you on that. I think that's any way we can put money back into the community and we can see where our money went. I'm for that.
Well, that's a good idea. And if you recall, Thrive did a project with the school. I don't remember which school. I think it was KIPP. And it might not have been either. It might have just been school age kids, but they did a project where they painted some of the fire departments on Cherry Street and Ohio Street, I believe. And they did a tremendous job. I just wanted them to keep going. So, but they didn't have the resources to keep going. So that we will bring that up, and I'll reach out and see if we can't include Thrive. If they
Yeah,
they see this as a project.
Sorry for interrupting me. I was going to say, even if Thrive wants to get involved, anything that can put our youth to work in this community to slow down some of the crime, if we can get some youth to work, some seniors in high school. Ms. Davis is a counselor. She knows how to talk to other young people, or get the word out to the people at Central High School, all schools around the area, to see if the seniors want to work on a project to help start trying to pay for prom or whatever we can do to try to deter some of the crime and get these young folks something to do. If Thrive want to get a couple of the senior class of each school that's in this county that wants to work to pay for something, that if it's for a reasonable price that we can afford, anything to help with the youth and to keep the youth out of the streets and try to give them something to do on a weekend project, or it could be a Saturday function or whatever the case. Whoever wants to get involved, I hope that you open the door for everybody that has a school or whatever that wants to get involved to get involved.
I think Thrive proved that you don't have to be an expert to paint it. And so we'll definitely open that up to Thrive and anybody else that we can. So any other questions or comments about that? Okay. So the next item on the agenda, we've already talked about the interlocal agreement. So we're moving to bids for paving a Ballot circle. No new bids came in, and the bids are in your packet. So I'll just open that up for discussion. This is the Ballot circle issue over off Valley Drive that we've discussed before. And I think what we did was pass a motion to put it out for bid. And we did put it out for bid many different ways. And these 4 bids that you see in your packet are what came back. I would add, though, that actually, I want to give you an update on this. I've been frustrated because we did get an asphalt truck, an asphalt machine, and then we didn't have a truck big enough to pull it. So we had a hard time finding a truck heavy enough. And I'll give Miss Ramsey some credit here because she finally helped me find one. And I don't know if we've actually closed the deal on that. But what that means is we'll finally be able to use that asphalt truck. And I believe our ordinances say, has been pointed out, that we prefer to use asphalt on our roads. And so that's a really good development. And since that happened today, I'm gonna let you know about it. Anyway, other discussions about this particular issue?
So, man, have you chosen? I see we have, but what is this? 4, 3? Hold on, I'm sorry. So, have you chosen the proposal that you're going to go with?
Well, now that it's over 5 and it's over 7,500 too. So the lowest bid was 22,500 by Ridgeline Construction to prepare the area and pour hot service mix asphalt. The lowest asphalt bid. The lowest concrete bid was Darnell Jones, 18,600, and then you have 2 other bids. One's concrete, one's asphalt. So,
well, Mayor, look like if I'm not the only one, Ridgeline Construction is going to be for 22,500. I see they're gonna use the asphalt. They're gonna sweep and clean. Yeah. So, I mean, if the body has no, I move to accept Ridgeline Construction LLC proposal.
Mr. Franklin has made a motion to select Ridgeline Construction's asphalt proposal for 22,500. Is that right? That's the one. The
Yes, sir.
asphalt.
Yes, sir.
Is there for the paving Violet Circle? Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. St. Columbia seconds the motion. Any questions or comments about the motion?
Mayor, before we, I would like to see when this is done, can we all go out and look at this? I just think that it's a team effort, and I think we should, just go look at it together. And just I know it'll be a job well done, but we can just look at it together and see how it turns out.
Why don't I let Ridgeline Construction know so when we have some kind of a date, we'll let everybody know.
Thank you so much.
Any other questions or comments? If not, call the roll.
Davis,
Yeah.
St. Columbia,
Yes.
Crockett. She votes yes. Franklin,
Yes.
Etherly, Ford.
Yes.
I had 5 yes, and 1 absent. Mr. Etherly had to leave us.
Motion passes. Is that all we have to do on that one?
Yes.
All right, next item. Oh, sorry, let me get caught up. Next time on the agenda. Actually, it's the discussion about the roadside items, pick up how much, when, who does it. Mr. Jones is unable to join us tonight. And also, I think both Mr. Valley and maybe Mr. Etherly has had some input in that discussion. But I won't move on unless y'all have no objection. We can put that, pardon me, up to the next. I will say that the dumping violation or dumping enforcement of dumping laws has, most of them have been warnings, and they've had a very dramatic impact on a lot of areas where we've had some real serious dumping issues and other serious issues. All you gotta do is drive around to see that we're not there yet by a long shot. But that has been a big success in the last couple of weeks. But anyway, do y'all want to put this off until next time, since Mr. Jones is not here to answer questions?
Yes, sir, man. I think there'll be, for me, it'll be better because so he can explain his needs, and by that time we should hear from the water department on those expenses, so we can see where that, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that $400,000 that we're looking for, and that would help offset the cost.
Yes, I would like to hear what he has to say about it. I've discussed it with Tom, but
Well, I'm sorry. Okay, well, we can move this discussion as well as the, so let me ask you this. Do y'all want to, it's not next on the agenda, but it's an item that Mr. Jones is scheduled to discuss. Do y'all want to take, did I hear you to say you want to move the discussion about the side loaders and all that other also, or just the issue of the roadside?
Yeah, Mayor, because he can better explain what he needs. And like I said, with sanitation, money that the water department owes us, we can really, when we find out when can they pay us, we can better find out. We can do a lot with $400,000. So I would wait to hear his response on that as well.
Okay, so we'll move the roadside item pickup discussion, unless there's anybody else who want to chime in on that? Any of that? If not, we'll move that as well as the general public works discussion about sanitation truck quotes to the next meeting. So that really only leaves the one item of the salary adjustment for the water and sewer director, Mr. Jeff Patterson. So I'll take that one. And I believe it's 67,000 is his request. And so let me sort of recap just quickly. And we're actually doing pretty well on time because we've done a lot. So Mr. Patterson is our water manager, as you know, and some of this is y'all already know. I'm just recapping for the public. And he has done, and I will say he has done a very good job. We've had 3, what I would call water crises just in the last 3 days. It's a very challenging position. And this morning was another one. He and several other employees at the water department are working with Arkansas Rural Water to move up in their licensure and their certifications. It'll be, I was checking today because this, I know you don't have to, I'm not going to make you ask it. I know because you've already asked me privately. And so I'll just say sort of collectively, it's probably going to be the end of the month. It takes about 30 days to get results back on some of the licenses and tests. The Arkansas Health Department has given us time to get our people certified, basically. And I'm sorry, I just got another message about it, about water issues. We've had, I mean, I don't have to tell you all, you've been here longer than I have. We've got tremendous challenges with leaks, and really that's just on the surface. That's mostly a symptom of a much bigger problem. And these guys are dealing with it every day. So Mr. Patterson, who was on an hourly basis, really made more before he was general manager than this raise would indicate. And Ms. Ramsey, if you would help me out, or Derek, and I apologize, I don't have that exact number in front of me, but is it a $5,000 raise? Ms. Ramsey or Derek, Mr. Turner?
Yes, sir. It's 5,000.
Is it 67 is the final?
Yes, sir. From 62 to 67.
60. All right. So Mr. Patterson, I believe, deserves a raise. He's. I would also say that as water managers go, and I don't know if the public really truly understands or appreciates this. Most cities have one water company. We have 2, really, because we have 2 cities that merged or became one city. But we still have, in a variety of ways, we still have 2 water treatment plants, 2 water distribution systems. So what you really have, you used to have 2 general managers. Now you have 1 general manager. You used to have 2 mayors. Now you have 1. You used to have 2 water commissions. Now you have no water commissions. So it's a tremendous, and here we are at a time when it is very difficult to recruit and retain qualified employees. And this is a position which is more than just an average employee. This person has to respond to federal and state regulations and laws. And of course, you only have to look in the headlines or Google it to see some of the incredible challenges cities all over the country have had with municipal water and water system and treatment and distribution and all the things that go with it. It's an incredibly complex set of organisms, but he's actually managing 2 plants. And he's doing it on a salary that is less than most water managers manage in a city for just 1 plant. So I would recommend that we give him the raise, and then I'll take any questions that you might have.
Mayor, Chris Franklin. Mayor,
Yes.
I mean, you know, I'm working with you, Mayor, but on this one, I didn't know he was named the water manager, so I didn't know, and I would have to, you know, I know that this is something that you want, but as of right now, Mayor, as of right now, I just can't, because this past weekend. And because I don't run day-to-day operations, and I apologize. I'm not trying to overstep you, but I do believe that this past weekend we had a crisis, as you just stated, and I saw, and the council has often said that we shouldn't be have these vehicles outside the city limits. Mayor, I promise you, I'm not picking with anybody, but for me to give a $5,000 raise, some things will have to change that I see. And I promise you, I'm not trying to step on your toes with day-to-day operations, but for me, I need a little bit more time there because I didn't know he was named as the water manager. And that's just me. If you give me a little bit more time, and I mean, because I don't evaluate him, you do. So I just want to just say that for me, I've done my best to go to everything. After the last couple of meetings, I would like to, but I didn't know, and this is my first time hearing he was the water manager. So I promise you, I wouldn't lie to you. This is my first time hearing it tonight. So, man, as of right now, I just can't right now, and I do apologize, but I just can't.
Ms. Franklin, just because I want to get along doesn't mean we always have to agree. And that's perfectly okay if you disagree with me. I just don't. I don't think that people want us shouting at each other anymore. But that's noted. Any other questions or comments about the issue?
I don't have a problem with the $5,000 raise.
Thank you, Ms. Davis. Would you, unless there are other comments, would you want to make the motion?
I will. So moved. On your
Ms.
recommendation.
Yes, it is my recommendation, and I stand behind it. Ms. Davis makes the motion to award the $5,000 raise. Is there a second? Is there a second? Thank you, Ms. Davis. Unless there's somebody muted or anything else, I will say just for the record. So we had, because I want the public to be clear in case they aren't. We did advertise for general manager position. We had 2 applicants. Mr. Patterson, who was already, who I appointed to be acting interim water manager until we had a formal, hiring process, was one of the 2 applicants and the highest, and actually the only one who had any license in water management at all. The other candidate was impressive, but had no credentials for water management. And so, having said that, I chose him to be interim manager for a reason. And this morning would be a good example of that. We had a system-wide failure across half the country on the computer system that we monitor that tells us where we are on our water distribution and filtration and all the rest of it. The system, it was not our fault. This was a system on failure all across the country. Because of that, we didn't get the alert we needed, and one of our plant over in our West plant, West Helena, flooded. Because of the flooding, it destroyed a couple of the sensors that we need that have really nothing to do necessarily with that particular system. But because of the flooding, because of the system, we had those fail. Because of that, long story short, we had to operate the plant manually until we could get it repaired, and it was a pretty big issue. Mr. Patterson did an absolutely superb job, starting at about 4 or 4:30 this morning, working with that. And again, it wasn't his fault. It was the fault of the company that does our computer system. And it happened everywhere. But he was there to sort of save the day. And so Ms. Crockett sent in a question about the license for water management. So his credentials are, he has a class 3 distribution license, which allows him to run the West plant, which is West Helena. The Helena plant requires a class 4. And he has taken the class, and the health department said, provided that he was pursuing that license, we would not be held out of compliance, provided he was actively pursuing it. He did. He took the classes and he took the test, and that's what I meant earlier. It's about 30 days to get the results back. And also, Will Strotter did the same thing, and he's waiting his results as well. So we're working with Rural Water to get all of our folks better licensed and certified than they have been. But anyway, so he was not only the highest qualified person who applied for the job, he was the only one with any license or certifications or classifications to apply for the job. And this morning, he certainly proved his mettle. So I just want to, I know we didn't get a motion and I won't belabor it any longer. I just want the public to know is really the purpose of that little speech. What the general manager does, how that process worked, how he was selected, and why I'm recommending that he get a raise. Okay, any other questions or comments tonight? Because really we're through our business agenda for the evening. All right. Okay, is any other business come before the council? All right, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Ms. Davis moves adjournment. Is there a second? Here a second. I'm not sure if we still have a quorum at this point.
Ms. Crockett says she seconds.
Okay. All right, if there's no objection, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, motion passes. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much, and thank you for your thank you to our guests who showed up, and thank you for getting a lot done tonight. I know everybody in our city appreciates it. So y'all have a good evening.